let's give you a reminder of the result in the Premier League at Old Trafford between Manchester United and Arsenal. A 1-0 win to the Gunners, match day one of the Premier League season, but an improved showing from Manchester United, even though it was a loss. Ruben Amorim remaining upbeat after the game. This is what he had to say afterwards. He said, "We have the players to win any game of the Premier League. We need to focus. Forget about the noise. We are fighting for the places. That is a good thing. But we are playing as a team. It doesn't matter who is playing. We want to win games." So let's welcome in Mark Ogden now. And Mark, I want to put that first part of the quote to you, that Ruben Amorim says we have the players to win any game in the Premier League. Do you agree with that?
No. But I think they've got a better team this year. They've definitely improved the forward line. They're much better. And watching United yesterday, they were totally different. They were exciting. They were adventurous. But as Shaka, I'm sure, will agree, they haven't got a goalkeeper. And when you haven't got a goalkeeper that you can rely upon, you can't beat the best teams in the Premier League, because I think that's United's issue. They had the better of the game against Arsenal, but they didn't take any of the chances. And when you don't take your chances, you need a keeper that's going to keep them out. And it was a terrible goal to concede. And whether it was Bayanda or Onana, they can't rely on the goalkeeper. So that's why I don't think United can beat the best teams in the Premier League, because they haven't got a goalkeeper they can rely upon.
He could have been stronger. He could have been more physical about it. And now, I watched the show yesterday and the discussion around how physical Bayanda could have been with Saliba, given we're now in the age of VAR, and what that looks like. But while back in my day, somebody that close to me, that physical with me, you can just kind of put your body on them, you can push them away, and that mightn't go unnoticed. Players will probably go over a whole lot easier and invite the referee and the VAR to make a decision. So secondly, as a goalkeeper, I think you have to be a little bit more clever about it. Now, the odd thing from a technique perspective about this is Bayanda goes with his left hand, the hand that's closer. While it's closer to Saliba, it's also closer to the ball. If you make a point of kind of showing that the defender is pinning your, again, in this case from this side, pinning your left arm, then you make the appeal to the VAR. So while you can't, as a goalkeeper, do what you did 10 or 20 years ago, because of VAR, you can then get clever in how you kind of show this up as a foul. And I don't think Bayanda did that.
Do you agree with Shaka?
Yes and no. I think there's a section in the middle. You say 20 years ago, I understand that, but there was a gap in the middle to where if a goalkeeper dropped on the floor, they'd just automatically give a free kick. It felt like, that's during the goalkeeper's softer era, you could say.
Well, according to Stevie Nicol, we're still in the goalkeeper's softer area, but that's a whole different argument we're on there.
I think it's good to see that go back again, because one thing which I'm seeing as well is within the frame of the goal, as the ball went in, there were 7 United players, and there were 2 Arsenal players. In reality, you should be able to deal with that situation, because as that surface is coming in, how many United players came close to heading the ball? You need to have people in and around the goalkeeper who are going to affect that. And the point that you've made about Bayanda being stronger, he absolutely needs to be. He needs to be smarter, needs to be stronger. Because in the first half as well, I think David Raya had a similar bit of service come in, and he got a strong punch to it. Yeah. He was under duress, he was feeling lots of pressure, but he came over the top and punched it. It wasn't a massive punch.
To the point.
It wasn't a massive punch, but it was a punch nonetheless.
Yeah.
And that's what you need, because if that in-swinging surface is going to come in, you need to trust your goalkeeper to be able to handle it. Because one thing about Arsenal, and it won't just be Arsenal this season, they're going to put you under pressure with set pieces in a way that, is different to years gone by, because I think there's more leniency now in terms of what you can do in and around a goalkeeper. So if you don't have a goalkeeper that's strong enough, as Oggy said, then Amorim can talk about, could beat any team. Well, that's unless there's an in-swinging corner coming in for, the 10th time and again.
To that point, and Raya isn't a physically imposing goalkeeper, yet he dealt with the pressure from Manchester United wonderfully well. And the other thing, and again, Bayanda will accept, he will have to take a lot of the blame here. But I think I'm right in saying that Mount is the closest defender to Saliba. Now, I mean, Saliba is a big boy. Mount isn't. So for, again, how you set up, it's almost as though this set piece, Arsenal's set up, caught Amorim by surprise. And there's absolutely no reason, no excusing that.
Where are you on this, Mark Ogden?
The goalkeeper, I mean, watching that yesterday, I mean, I've just seen it again now. I've seen it quite a few times. I don't think there was even a foul. I think Saliba and Mount are grappling in front of the goalkeeper, and Bayende is he's almost walking into the confrontation. You watch Saliba; he doesn't do anything to Bayende apart from just maybe encroaching his space a little bit. So Bayende should just be pushing him out of the way. Now, I take Shaka's point about what was Mason Mount doing on Saliba. There is a theory that because of last season, Arsenal would tend to attack the far post, that De Ligt was on the far post waiting for the Arsenal, the big guys, to arrive there. So De Ligt was the presence at the far post. But that still doesn't explain why Mason Mount is taking, William Saliba at centre-half. So there's a few issues for United to address there, and they were caught out. But, I've seen lots of kind of revisionist theories about this, that, Onana would have been better there. If David De Gea had stayed, he'd have been fine. Well, we saw David De Gea very weak at that sort of set-piece situation in his final years at United. Onana's never been convincing. So we know that United have looked for a goalkeeper this summer. They inquired at Emi Martinez at Aston Villa earlier on in the window. Were told he wasn't available, certainly not on loan. Gianluigi Donnarumma is a player, as a goalkeeper they've looked at as well, but that has kind of stalled. I think the wages are too high there. But they do need a goalkeeper, and they are looking for a goalkeeper. But Ruben Amorim has to say the right things to basically say to his goalkeepers, "You're my guys." They're his guys until they're not his guys, and the sooner that they're not his guys, the better for Ruben Amorim. But at the moment, he has to say, I back Bayanda and Onana because they're both good goalkeepers. But I mean, personally, I think they're the worst two goalkeepers in the Premier League in terms of they've got the worst number one and the worst number two.
So what, is there a chance that they don't get a new keeper, Mark?
Sorry, Nate.
You disagree? Just say it with your chest if you want. Go for it.
There is a good chance they won't get a goalkeeper in because United now have to get players out. They really need to get some money in. But the situation is they've let Marcus Rashford go to Barcelona, but obviously there's no fee involved there. They've saved a bit on his wages. Jadon Sancho has turned down a move to Roma. That would have brought in £20 million. So that is a big blow for United. And at the minute, Sancho isn't looking like going anywhere. They need to get him off the books. Anthony, again, not really any firm interest in Anthony despite his time at Betis last season. Garnacho. Now, Garnacho's a player that Chelsea are interested in, but everybody knows that United want Garnacho out. So Chelsea are waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you've got Tyrell Malacia, isn't going to bring a lot of money in. Rasmus Højlund, AC Milan are keen on Højlund, but United want at least £30 million. Milan don't want to pay that, they want it on loan. So I don't know where United are going to get the money from. There are 4 or 5 players they are happy to let go, but their asking price right now is too high. Look, we've got 2 weeks of the window to go. It closes 2 weeks today, and I'm sure in the final days of the window that United will have to drop their asking price and these players will get a move. But by then it's going to be too late because they need to get a goalkeeper and probably a defensive midfielder in. But it's going to be a struggle. The priority now has to be to get players out, and that's where they're finding it difficult.
Obviously, we just saw the full screen there for Jadon Sancho. Mark brought him up. He's turned down a move to Roma. Gasperini's come in at Roma. We know everything achieved at Atalanta. We know he's got a very attack-minded philosophy when it comes to football. It could have been a really nice move for Jadon Sancho. Can you understand why he has turned it down?
It depends, to be honest. I think from the general fan perspective, it'd be like, well, why would you turn down a move to go and play good football, to play under Gasperini and so on? But I'm sure there are reasons for Jadon that makes him suggest that he doesn't want to go permanently to go and play in Italy, for example. I'm not sure exactly what those reasons are, but as I see him, because he was the manager at Atalanta, wasn't it? So this is Jadon Sancho, Ademola Lookman. I could see a comparison there in terms of style of play. And Ademola Lookman ended up winning African Player of the Year. He's been nominated for the Ballon d'Or and all sorts in that system. So I could see it working for him, but maybe the fit just isn't there. Maybe he's spoken to Gasperini, they don't get along. Maybe he's seen some of the wider things around the football club as well. So he's going to try and hold his ground for as long as possible. But if Roma really wants him and they can't move on to another target, as Mark said, this next 2 weeks is going to be really interesting because there's nothing quite like running out of time to sort of clear your mind and clear your thinking as a player that's keen to play football. And that's why we see so many deals late on in the window.
Do you think there's been a level of mismanagement with Jadon Sancho in his career?
In what sense?
Well, just the way it's played out. He's had some of these chances. Maybe some of these chances haven't played out the way he would have hoped. Have you seen other players that have mismanaged perhaps their career in the way that he might have?
Possibly. Everyone's different. There are ways that we like to see players play and to conduct themselves, and there are ways which players just do themselves that see best. It seems that since he's come to United, the system and the situation in England hasn't suited him. I think he took some time away for, personal issues as well. So he's somebody that appears to need to have an arm around him. But then, say, myself and lots of other players, we're from an era whereby you don't really put arms around people. You trust them to be able to know their job and do their job. So maybe he's not been in the right environment for him. And obviously that might sound super soft and so on, but that's the type of player that he is. And I think when you look back at his time at Dortmund, when he was a huge success as a young player, you know that it's there. But who's going to be the next manager to unlock it? Because as time passes, people will start to have their doubts. But the picture showed as well, he's 25 years old. It's the easiest thing to forget because we've spoken about him for so long. So there's still a lot of good years ahead of him, but it's about finding the right place and almost him himself accepting that the way that maybe he wants to do things isn't going to be the way that clubs want to do it as well.